Delta 1989 indicated that IT might have been hijacked. As already specified, there are two classes of proof that proposed Delta 1989 was playing a seized flying machine in an activity. The primary class includes occurrences where the plane and its pilots carried on suspiciously. These episodes are condensed underneath. Just after 9:39 a.m., when a radio transmission was heard originating from the commandeered Flight 93 in which a criminal stated, "There is a bomb on load up," Cleveland Center controller John Worth began giving off the flights he was managing to different controllers so he could commit his regard for Flight 93. However, as per creator Lynn Spencer, the team of Delta 1989 missed the handoff to their new recurrence. The new division controller managing Delta 1989 shouted to the plane a few times yet got no reaction from its pilots. As per Spencer, Delta 1989 was out of radio contact for a few minutes, and this news soon achieved a FAA video chat. 2. Cleveland Center controllers again ended up suspicious when, at 9:44 a.m., the pilot of Delta 1989, Captain Paul Werner, called and asked for a change obviously so he could arrive in Cleveland. As USA Today noticed, the commander's demand precedes he can realize that the FAA needs every trip down. The FAA Command Center trained aviation authority focuses to advise all airplane to arrive at the closest air terminal a moment later. At 9:45, USA Today proceeded, on this day, the way that the pilot solicitations to be rerouted before he is requested to arrive appears to be suspicious. Why the dearness? The reason was allegedly that Delta Airlines had been cautioned to the worries about Flight 1989's well-being and had been nearly observing the flying machine. It had then sent the pilots a direction to land quickly in Cleveland. But despite the fact that Cleveland Center was responsible for Delta 1989, for reasons unknown it was not educated of this. Its air activity controllers at that point saw Delta 1989 influencing a 30° to move back in the direction of its new goal of the Cleveland Air Terminal. Spencer depicted, a sudden change obviously for a cross-country, Boeing 767 out of Boston raises promote doubt. 3. As Delta 1989 plummeted toward Cleveland, controllers at the Cleveland Center ended up suspicious again in light of the fact that pilot Paul Werner neglected to answer to a message. As per USA Today, the reason was essentially that Werner was occupied. But the controllers developed frightened. For what reason didn't he react? Have both jets, the United, Flight 93, and the Delta flights, been commandeered? 4. A prominent case of Delta 1989 carrying on unusually, maybe in light of the fact that it was playing a seized plane in an exercise, happened while it was under the control of the Cleveland Terminal Radar Approach Control, TRACON. TRACONs are FAA offices that guide flying machine drawing near or leaving an air terminal. The Cleveland TRACON was in contact with Delta 1989 as it dropped from 9,000 feet down to 3,000 feet. As indicated by a nitty-gritty order delivered not long after 9/11 by the Cleveland Airport Aviation Authority Tower, one abnormality that propagated worry at the TRACON was that Paul Werner never utilized the overwhelming designator in his interchanges. The expression substantial informs controllers that they have to give additional space behind vast airship, which are over a specific weight, on the grounds that these airship create noteworthy wake turbulence. The TRACON controllers utilized this critical term in their correspondences with Delta 1989, yet the pilot did not react with it. Despite the fact that this may appear a minor detail, it is of much essentialness. The control tower's sequence expressed, the utilization of overwhelming and the terminal condition is of the most astounding significance. Expanded partition principles are required, and misapplication of division gauges can be heartbreaking. For pilots, not alluding to an overwhelming airplane as substantial as commensurate to calling a specialist sir. Therefore, Werner's inability to utilize the expression kept everybody alarmed and doubtful of the security of Delta 1989. Could the reason Werner neglected to utilize the substantial designator be that he was acting the piece of a pilot who was secretly attempting to alarm controllers that something wasn't right on his flight, as a component of an activity? An inquisitive last episode happened after Delta 1989 arrived at Cleveland Hopkins Airport. The plane was coordinated to stop at a remote region, and its pilots were advised not to permit travelers off. In the end, the Cleveland Police SWAT, Unique Weapons and Strategies, Group and a group of FBI operators went out to the flying machine. Individuals from the SWAT group, who'd taken up a position simply behind the airship, saw Paul Werner with blood running down his face as he inclined out of the window to give them the all-unmistakable flag. The clarification Spencer has given for his draining face is that Werner inadvertently thumped his head and sliced it when he came back to his seat, subsequent to setting off to the lodge to address the plane's travelers. While this might be right, in light of the confirmation depicted above, might Werner's bloodied confront on the other hand have been simulated utilizing counterfeit blood in light of the fact that he was acting the piece of the pilot of a plane under attack? Maybe this should pass on the feeling that he had been attacked by one of the activity's ridicule ruffians. In the event that Delta 1989 was participating in a preparation workout, the proof above brings up a critical issue. How mindful were the pilots that true assaults had happened in New York and Washington? Purportedly, at around 9:15 a.m., they heard over the radio that two flying machines had collided with the World Trade Center. As indicated by USA Today, Werner figured these planes must be little ones, not traveler planes like the Boeing 767 he orders. The pilots likewise heard the thief transmissions, clearly originating from Flight 93, in the vicinity of 9:28 and 9:39 a.m. However, did they think these criminal correspondences and the news of the assaults in New York were genuine, or did they trust they were a piece of an activity? The inquiry remains uninvestigated and, along these lines, unanswered.